And here we go. Once again, we're back with the Anime Watch Club. Took a little bit of a hiatus, but we're back. We kind of got caught up in life, and we were watching Erased. One of my favorite animes, personally. And I finally got the boys to watch it. So we're going to roll them on in. Gentlemen, back at it. Life can't
We're
get us down.
back.
I'm big.
We're back. They can't stop us.
No,
So,
no.
as I was saying, that we went on a small hiatus because life do be doing that every once in a while.
It'd be like that.
And we
Sometimes
decided
it sucks.
to watch a little bit of Erased. I think we all had different schedules on when we watched it. Pretty sure I finished in time, and Doug was super early.
Yeah, you remember when the last video came out? I think a week after that I was done with it.
I think you
And
finished,
it's been about a month ago,
I
so...
think you finished in like less than 4 days, by the way.
Oh, I binged it. It was great.
And I think
I just
watched,
wish I remembered it.
Yeah, I think I watched like 4 episodes, and then Sean was like, "Yeah, I haven't watched it," so I put it off for like 2 weeks, and then finished it because I've seen it before.
Yeah, I'll take full responsibility for the delay.
Yes. So if you
It's
want
alright.
to punish Sean, just make sure to find out his address online. And,
I probably deserve it, to be fair.
yes.
No. You leave
Like you-
fucking Sean alone.
Doug, stop being a good friend and standing up for me.
I'm just breaking him
I'll
down.
I'll
breaking
come
him
after
down to build him
anyone.
back stronger. It's like pottery.
No, in all reality, I had a really shitty work schedule, and a lot of things have been going on at my job because of COVID and people calling out and me having to do an ass ton of extra work, plus just juggling life. So it took me a very long time to finish, unfortunately, but I finished. That's the good point.
Yes. And yeah, so and then I think we could all have a little bit of a redemption arc, kind of like Erased, you know? As Sean pointed
Yes.
out, the premise of it is slightly similar to my life, which is depressing, but you know, it is what it is.
Good God.
just don't do it. Just don't do it. You can do this, Tyler. So yes, Erased. Basically the whole premise, if you have not seen it, is Satoru is a 29-year-old and he works at a pizza place. He's also a struggling manga artist who would like to be
Apparently he's
popular,
pretty
but
good.
I guess like basically they say that he doesn't have much of a story, wink wink. So like come back when you get a life, nerd.
Yeah, the basis of his in the first episode, the basis of the talk with his boss who publishes his manga essentially is that his publisher was saying like you're not putting enough of your heart into your manga, so your readers can't like I guess understand or like feel where you're coming from.
Yeah,
So-
like he's not relatable because he hasn't fully lived his life.
He has a big old wall up essentially.
Yeah.
So this is how I know it's been a while since I've watched it, because all of that instantly took me to Angel Beats. I'm like, wait, are we
yeah.
talking about the right one?
We are.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
also, I mean, he's got a little I would say a little quirky thing about him if you want to get into it.
Get right into it.
Yeah, he's got a I would call it a power. Would you call it a power? It's not that good. I mean,
It's hard to
It's-
describe what it actually is.
He's a wizard.
yeah, like when you see it, you're like, oh,
Not really.
that power kind of sucks.
Well, the thing about it too is it reminded me a lot of Persona because like whenever Joker's able to like not necessarily the whole premise of Persona is like him like kind of going back in his mind, like in his memories to find out what happened,
Yeah.
and like the little butterflies and like
Oh,
there's
yeah.
there's fairies also,
I get what you're saying now.
but butterflies and fairies pop up every time that happens, and Erased whenever he can turn back time. In the beginning he could only turn back time, I think he said like a maximum of like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like because he was talking about because it's called revival, and so that's what he's been calling it. And basically, when something bad happens, he can like notice it, and then it'll go back a certain period of time by itself, and then
And
he'll stop.
I think
that.
that's a pretty strong power. If you ask
Yeah,
me.
but it's like
I mean, the power of hindsight.
well, it's
it
always
could be
like that.
overwhelming,
He gets like caught up in bad situations because of it.
yeah, it's starting to overwhelm him, but every time he knows revival's about to happen because he sees the like almost translucent like blue butterfly flying past him, and then he goes into panic mode, kind of like, oh shit, what's about to happen?
But what is about to happen?
Well, so let me tell you, Douglas.
Thank you.
He ends up, so he's on a little pizza delivery when he notices, and I guess there's a kid who's crossing the street, and and then basically he sees it like when the truck driver is doing that. So he's
He was
like,
the crossing guard.
yeah, he's like, huh?
The kid was the crossing guard.
How's a child a crossing guard?
He was wearing the vest and everything.
I think that was just a, hey, I'm in the middle of the road. Please don't hit me vest.
Do they put those on kids now?
Yeah, do they make those?
I don't know.
Well, clearly,
it's been a bit.
it clearly did not work.
I'm looking up. Hey, I'm in the middle of the street.
Can I please have a safety vest?
Please don't hit me, vest. Okay, yes, they don't make those, Doug.
Well, now that we have confirmed that.
Clarification.
Anyway,
beautiful.
At least he's still a child. But basically, the truck driver has a heart attack. And then this truck's on the runaway. So, my dog, Satoru, has to go back and fucking stop the truck. Which he does. And then he fucks himself up, of course. And that's kind of where it's like, it's a power, but he's like, my life is getting worse from this.
Yeah, so he gets knocked unconscious for a little bit, right?
He gets pwned.
Yeah, he basically gets put in the hospital.
Doug, I'm not liking you right now.
TKO.
I'm not liking you right now.
Dude, it's the only way I can contribute right now, because I don't remember any of this.
Wait, did you have to say pwned?
Yeah, pwned. Yeah, he's got to get
I
the old
high
reaction. School jargon back.
Fucking elite, dude.
Well, yeah.
Anyways,
back to it. Yeah, so he essentially gets hospitalized, and then of course his 17-year-old coworker has to pop by and fucking check up on him, because that's how it is. You got to make it a little uncomfortable for the folks at home.
But she kind of brings a drawback of like it's almost foreshadowing a little bit.
It definitely
because she says some things to him. I forgot the phrase that she said. Something about like believing in somebody, and like it triggers him, and he's like, I've heard this before. Like, why does this phrase and sentence like stick out to me so much? So it's a little bit of foreshadowing about what's gonna happen throughout the series.
Because essentially, like, so her name is Irie, and then so she's essentially like the only person that like has ever believed in him to like accomplish dreams, because they're with that whole chat they're like talking about dreams and like what do you want to be type shit, like the deep stuff, and then it's like, oh fuck, episode 1, eh?
Kind of weird because they just work together at a fucking pizza shop. Like,
yeah, and it's like it's like a passing relationship. Like, he doesn't really talk to her, and he's like, oh, that's kind of fucking weird that like she believes in me.
And is she the one that like actually likes his novels also? His mangas? Or is that someone else? I'm so sorry.
That's like a little later. So like that's after.
Okay.
So we'll kind of get into that. Yeah, so it goes like that. He gets out of the hospital. Of course, like his mom comes from like I think he's from like Hokkaido.
Yeah,
and so his mom comes in to like check up on him and be like, well, you got fucked up at that car, so like I'm gonna stay here in your apartment for a little bit, and also I'm gonna sleep in the same room because like it ain't that big.
Then he continues to kind of, it's a little bit of, not necessarily foreshadowing, but it's just bringing more of his past into it. He's like, hey, it's crazy. My mom's like 50-something years old, and she hasn't changed one fucking bit from when I was younger.
Yeah, and there's also like a running gag that goes on that she's a witch, because she seems to always know what he's thinking. And so you get like that dynamic of them and how they're like, it's like kind of an iffy relationship, but it's kind of like,
at the end of the day, they're still like tight.
Yeah, and then so I think then what's that next scene is they end up at like that supermarket.
Yeah,
and that's where it like activates, and he's like, well, why's Revival activating? I don't really understand this.
The parking lot.
Yeah, in the parking lot, like when they walk out. So he's like, well, why's this activating? And there's it's like a guy and a child going on basically.
And I was about to say, the thing about Revival this time though is even his mom was saying some shit before it activated, was like, I noticed that guy, I should have done something. And his mom,
I think that's just her mommy powers.
Yeah, and it kind of like ties into, so it goes with that.
Yeah,
in the parking lot, and then it also reminds her of like the past of like that. She brings up that 2 of his classmates were kidnapped.
The big old mystery.
Yeah, and that's kind of where it's like tying in, and he's like, "Well, why didn't I remember that? Did we look at the name of the anime?"
And then she talks about essentially, or well, she's not talking, but she's thinking.
Yeah,
and like she's essentially saying like, "Hey, I shouldn't have kind of blocked his memories out of that. Like that's super important to remember, but I didn't know what to do for him at the time because it was so traumatizing."
Yeah, and then you find out later that they like do that to all the classmates. Like they blocked out like the news of it and everything like that.
Because you find out that he in the flashback it shows that he feels like he could have stopped it all from happening, and that's why it was so traumatic to him and affecting him personally, and why his mother decided to kind of go that route about it.
Yeah. And so then it gets that, and then I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that his mom is like in contact with one of the old, like, I think he's like a reporter, because she was a reporter as well.
Yeah, her coworker.
Yeah, and like
ex-coworker
gets into contact with him because she like remembers something about that old case, and apparently she knows too much.
Oh,
because
too much, you say?
Because she gonna get murdered.
Yeah.
What?
She gonna get murdered. That's how it's gonna go.
Oh man, it's a good thing I've seen this already and just don't remember it, so it's like I'm reliving it.
Yeah.
She calls him up though and is like, "Hey, call me back. I know who it is."
Yeah.
He didn't pick up the phone though, so it was a voicemail. So she goes back to the apartment. She starts she puts her bag down, and the little slip that had like the name on it or the phone number on it, she puts in her phone. Is it in her phone that she puts it between? I think it was. Anyways, a piece of paper falls on the ground. She goes in. She's looking for her son, and then moments later, the murderer just slides on into the apartment and pretty much gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, as you'll see in a lot of I would say like anime tropes, is they're not very good at locking doors around this part of town.
Why do you lock a sliding door?
Well, they have locks, Doug.
I know. I'm just contributing.
But could it not be forcefully like opened? I feel like it could.
I don't know. I feel like they're a little lax on that part. They're like, no one will come in. They'll probably knock. They'll be like polite. It's like, you all still got murderers, right? Yeah. And so basically that goes. She gets fucking straight up stabbed in the back.
She gets foreshotted on Guardian.
Yeah, fucking. She's going S2.
Going S2, like.
Actually, he pre-nated lift, and
not only that, he had invis, and the callouts were strong, so she's got team played super hard.
It does.
And then
happen.
The most gangster part.
It does happen, but maybe next spawn, maybe work on the flank.
Yeah, just a little bit. You got to get your spawns down, especially on Guardian.
Yeah, they're quite predictable. Because if they're blue room, they're probably spawning green.
Anyways,
I'm gonna have a stroke.
Now the most gangster part of the entire series. Just kidding. But
it's like
as
Doug.
I know Satoru like goes home like right as the assailant's leaving, and he pretty much just gives him a nice little nod.
Well, he's got that like that like red-eyed fucking like, hey, I'm the murderer. You just don't know who I am.
Yeah, I call that I call that the red eye complex in anime.
Yeah, it definitely happens a lot. Like it's something you see quite a bit.
Yeah, it's like a nod at, hey, I'm the bad guy.
Yeah,
what's
then,
up?
Like, of course, then Satoru goes in. He finds it. Like, he's like, oh fuck, mom's murdered. The door's open.
He goes to move her or flip her over, and her blood gets on his hands.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then randomly a neighbor just like, hey, what's up? And then just straight up assumes, oh, you're a fucking psychopath.
Well, I think doesn't he scream, and then she comes over.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh god, and clearly they're like, he must have murdered her.
Even though he screamed, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't really understand that part. That's just
I
probably so much murder here, we're just used to it.
Anyways, police are coming. He's got her blood on his hands,
Yeah.
and
And he's like, oh god, they're gonna
he's
think I'm
running out the
guilty.
he's running out the door, and the police like take him in like to custody pretty much, and are like, "You're a suspect. You got blood on your hands. Come with me, kid."
Yep.
And then he's like, "No, I'm innocent." And then boom, blue butterfly.
Yeah. And then what happens? He's 10 years old again. What's good?
Revival.
And yeah, so that pretty much starts the whole thing. He's like trying to figure out why
But
he's back in time.
yeah, but not only that, but like, why did he go so far back in time? Because like I was saying before, he clearly brought up that revival usually was only like 5 minutes prior to the situation.
Yeah.
But this time he went back. What was it? 11 years? 19 years. That's what I'm 18 years actually, because he was 11.
Oh yes. Clearly, the Wikipedia has lied to me.
Okay, my bad. Either way, he goes back
age.
a very long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Yo, why the fuck did I go back this far? Like, what is going on?" And then it kind of clicks in his brain, like, "Oh, what was the girl's name that got murdered? The first one he mentions?
Kaio.
Kaio." He's like, "Yeah, so Kaio's murder is clearly linked to my mother's murder. That's why I went this far back in time, because it was around that time frame. Like, what, 2 months apart?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then he pretty much makes it his mission while he's back in his, childhood body to be like, okay, we got to save Kaio because that'll save my mom. And then he has an internal dilemma like, okay, I got to try to remember like what I did. I got to change those like these courses of action. I got to make sure, I get close to Kaio so I could like watch her and protect her.
He's basically got to like piece together the puzzle of like what, because like they don't know what day she got murdered. So like they have to piece that together. He has to piece together like, like everything that did happen and who like got arrested. And I think there's like
not only that, but like his memories kind of got blocked a little bit because of how traumatic the situation was. So he's having trouble remembering like what like things he actually did and did not do on specific days, I mean, think about it. I can't remember what the fuck I ate for breakfast like a week ago. How the fuck am I going to remember what I did in a day 18 years ago? Whatever.
Especially when you're like back in time and there's no record of, that case.
Yeah. Like, so I can't even remember this anime I watched a month ago.
Yeah.
And it was really fucking good.
For real, dog.
And so basically, the man that got captured, I think they call him by like Yuki, right? What was his name? He was like, that's like the paper airplane guy, right?
Yeah, he was like the older kid that hung out with the younger kids.
Yeah, like clearly the suspect of like who everyone would think did it, right?
I mean, yeah, it is pretty sus.
And he's always, Satoru's always had his doubts about him being involved in the murders.
Can we just talk about something completely random real quick? Does anybody else think Satoru's mom has like, the fish from Mario, the Cheep Sheeps?
Yeah, the weird lips.
The lips, the Cheep Sheep lips.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice of that. I feel like they do that. They do that every once in a while. That
puts a weird visual in my head.
That's what I thought of the whole time. Either way.
There's another anime too that does that like I can never get over. It's called like it's like My Love Story or something like that. And he has lips like that, so that's all that I ever think about. But I digress.
I digress,
yes. So, he's basically like, you can kind of like summarize it, and he's like going day by day trying to figure out like what's going on and of like what led to it, and like, fucking.
I think a big part of it also is him like getting to know his like kind of like air quotes group of friends again, because Kenya and Hiromi become pretty important characters throughout the series. I don't remember the other two's name though. I'm not gonna lie to you. I remember Kenya was the little fucking blonde snob, and Hiromi was like the feminine boy.
Yeah, because Hiromi's like one of the ones that gets kidnapped as well.
Yeah, Hiromi's like the second or the third. I forgot which one.
I forget. They're like, I can't remember what their names are either, because like you said, they're like not super popular.
No, only Only Kenya and Hiromi were like actually relevant.
Yeah, so he pretty much wants to intervene and do things he did differently that he at least remembers from what he did. And I believe he always just avoided her because she was a little off.
Yeah, and she always like hung
She's
out in the park
different,
alone.
very introvert, and
To be fair, she
yeah.
was kind of a bitch.
Yeah, she was kind of a bitch, honestly. You know, I'll say it. That 10-year-old was a bitch.
I won't. I mean, fuck, and we know why later, but I mean, come on.
I mean, come on. Yeah, so it's I'm trying to think because it's basically like he also there's like certain points in time to where you're kind of seeing the extent of the power as well because he's like they show that through that ice skating match. Remember?
Yeah, well, wasn't it a race?
Yeah. So yeah, well, yeah, race, yeah, match.
Yeah, I remembered something. Oh yeah,
Yeah, touchdown
but
in
yeah,
soccer. Yeah.
yeah, and he like was trying to. He was racing someone who was the fastest in the school,
Yeah, and
but
he's
he
like
was like,
remembered like how he remembers it. He was like, I could have won.
yeah, and he's like, I think I did win, so let me lose on purpose, and then he ends up
he remembers that he lost, so he like pulls back at the end or something like that.
Yeah, and I believe like it turned out that's what he did before. He lost on purpose because this person was like actually a part of the sports thing and a big deal to him, and he ended up doing the same thing he did back in time, like overthinking the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, and it kind of so like it ends up backfiring and stuff like that too because like you know the whole goal is to make friends with Caillou and then I think along the way I think he
Oh,
figures out when like she actually dies.
yeah, and I believe during that part too, he's like, "I'll try my best," and then she kind of saw that he pulled back, and
Well, yeah,
she
because
kind of didn't
she
like that.
well she had said to him previously like
Yeah, that's
just
in the
don't lie
park.
to me, and then she was like, why did you lie to me?
Well, because yeah, part of that thing too is like because I think he like runs into her in the park too, like as well, and she's like I'm trying to remember what the line is. She's like we're both liars or something like that.
Yeah,
And
something along those
like
lines.
she's hiding like her terrible home life, and he's a 29-year-old in an 11-year-old body. So you know how it is.
Well, the whole
Same
basis behind it
situation.
is the whole
When you
basis
word it
behind
that
it
way.
is that they're lying to each other because they're both saying that
Yeah.
like they're happy or they're pretending to be somebody that they're not essentially.
Yeah.
They both wear a fake smile.
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe it was
That
something
kind of like
along
ties
those
in with
lines.
his adult life as well, and he kind of like this is kind of where he gets like the growth from it. I would say like for later, like that kind of comes in contact later.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so I think it's basically so it's that he figures out like when her birthday is because I think he's like, oh, I'll invite her to like my fucking birthday party and whatever, and then he finds out that like the reason she's like all weird about it is because like it's the same day as his.
Yep, they have the same birthday. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, and because like I think he figures that out because she hadn't turned 11 or something like that. So he's like, oh, that means her birthday didn't pass. So that's how he figures it out.
Yeah, and that's why he asked her what her birthday was, so he can mark that down as what he calls X Day.
Yeah. And yeah, so I think pretty much like spans from there. You know, like he's like, well, this is it. This is how we're gonna do it. Clearly, if I just make it to that day, we're all set. And then
Yeah, and I think he like started. I could be overshooting, but I think this is when he starts like walking her to and from school, and you know, I know all his classmate friends kind of get the idea that he's like trying to like be in a relationship when he's really just trying to, you know, make sure she's good.
Yeah, and like
and
that
doesn't,
he
you know,
gets like
hit
he gets a lot of like the view of her home life and stuff like that, how terrible it actually is and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is also where he ties in his teacher. And his name is I think it's Gaku is his name.
Yeah, Gaku Yashiro.
Yashiro Sensei as he's usually called. And yeah, so basically like wanting to get him involved, like get her away from the mom because like the like running suspicion is like, oh, it was the mom. because she's a
Yeah.
fucking straight bitch.
Yeah, she like, and then even when he talks to the teacher about it, like the teacher says, like, "Oh,
Yeah, like we're aware of it.
yeah, we're aware that she's getting physically abused. Like, we think it's her mother, and I want to tie in the authorities and this and that." And then Sadaro's kind of just like, "Why haven't you done it already?"
Yeah,
And then
like,
the teacher,
like that they've been avoiding I forget what they're called, like child protective services, basically. Like,
yeah, they leave the house essentially, like they can kind of predict it, but
yeah,
the teacher's kind of telling Satoru like, "Yo, keep an eye on her," and
Yeah.
kind of update me on what's going on.
yeah. That also
Then
goes. I think that like ties in too. Is like they're trying to get it to where there's like a spring break essentially, to like get it to
yeah,
where she can't fucking predict that they're gonna be there.
yeah, and then also a weird thing happens is he pulls Kenya in about, I think it's about the same thing. They didn't show it, but I'm only assuming that's what he talked to him about.
I think before, like, he talked to the teacher and all that too.
Yeah, and
it was when he like walked it up to like her house, and there's like a shed like right there, and he like found her like in there like all beat up.
Yeah, that goes with like finding out about like her abuse and stuff like that. Of like,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
then the
all these,
mom's
like-
real just yeah. So that's like it's solid that she is getting abused. It's not just like he say she say. There's actual visual proof that it's happened.
And I would say
and
also,
it happens.
I would say that this is kind of where the series does a really good job, because it sort of distracts you from like everything going on. And so I think, like, I'm trying to think, this is almost like halfway through as well. So
Yeah,
you're
it's
kind of
about halfway
like
through.
you're in the dark about like who it could even possibly be, because like it almost has this like innocence to it, to where it's like, well, clearly it could be this, but like my brain thinks there's going to be a twist, and so you're like, it could be anyone really.
Yep.
I will say, I think Jess called it from the start.
Well, I'll give complaints about that later. Of probably why she could guess it, and it's also been changed since then.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. So it basically goes to that. He invites her to a birthday party. She does not make it, as what a twist. And yeah, so
Well, no, no. She made it to the birthday party. It was
Oh,
afterwards.
that's right.
Though.
Yeah, after.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Because she told him, I don't have your present today, but I promise I'll give it to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he was like so looking forward to it, and then boom, she just doesn't show up to class.
Yeah.
And
then they're like, "Fuck."
Let's just say there was no tomorrow.
Yeah. Then basically everyone fucking like all the things spiral, and he's like, "Fuck, I done goofed. What didn't I get right?" He's like frustrated about that.
Yep, and he sees the mom taking out a garbage bag, I think, that has like her mittens in it.
Yeah.
And that's when he fucking loses it, and I believe that's when time goes back to the original time frame, if I'm correct.
Yep.
And then that's the ending of the first half of the series, because they break it into episode 1 through 6. They give you a recap, and then it's 7 through 12.
Yep. And then so basically he's like on the run from everything like that, because he's on the run from the police, has to avoid like media, all the shit like that, and then this is where he like comes into contact with Irie.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And then he also like figures out that like the day that she got abducted had changed from like looking it up from Kaio. And so he's like, "Oh, so I actually can change the future, essentially."
Mm-hmm.
And then so she fucking takes in a criminal essentially, and then hides him.
Yeah, she's helping him out, hiding him, and his manager at the pizzeria as well, helps him out for a minute.
Yeah.
But the authorities come to the manager's door.
Yeah, because he sold him out because he's a little rat bitch.
Yeah, but he dipped out, and then the manager also has the hots for what's her name?
Irie.
So
she's Irie man.
Yeah, so he's trying to get her to admit to knowing where he's at, and why are you helping him out? And then she's like, I'll be fine, don't worry about it, I don't know anything about this. And he ends up following Irie home, and she decks that motherfucker in the face.
Oh yeah, dude.
I know he follows Satoru to her place. She decks him in the face and is like, "Leave me the fuck alone. Like, I thought you liked me and I thought you trusted me and I told you I could handle it. It's not a big deal."
I rebut my statement from earlier. That's the most gangster part of the show.
It was pretty gangster, dude. She like hits him so hard that his like face falls off.
It was, and then you find out you don't know who the murderer is still, but you find out the murderer is in cahoots with the manager and the police.
Yeah.
So he figures out where Satoru is living and sets Irie's, I think it's her
parents' house.
Yeah.
Because she's 17.
Yes.
Yeah, it's her parents' house, like on fire.
Yeah, because you also got to remember too that the also kind of cool part is that she gets a text message from Satoru's mom's phone.
Yeah, that the murderer had picked up,
and it's supposed to essentially like
frame him.
Yeah, frame him because like it's like from Satoru, and then it's gonna fucking set her house on fire. She dies. Now he's wanted for 2 murders.
Yep.
And
so
ties every loose end of everything.
So he goes in, he bum rushes in to save Irie, and then, the manager actually comes in and is like, "I'll take the credit for this, run out the back fucking door."
Yeah.
So Satoru, being smart, runs out the back door. And I believe that's when Revival happens again, a little bit after that.
Because he kind of he finds out about like the phone call and stuff like that, like who she called before she died and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He met up with the reporter.
And then that's kind of where he gets more information about it, like of how like she basically knew who was involved with Kaio's death back then. So he's like, your mom knew someone, and then we just don't know who yet.
He also got to look at the reporter's computer because the reporter let him. Mm-hmm. And what was his name? Makoto. I'm trying to remember. Sawada.
Yeah.
And anyways, he looks at.
Oh yeah, that's right. They like figure out about the computer. Now I got you.
Yeah, so he shows him all the information that he had about it. So he sees
the suspect list.
Yep. So he has he sees the 2 suspects lists, and his mom is even on there.
Yeah, because he's like essentially the way they bring that up is that he remembers seeing it, but like that there was like multiple people on it that he basically trusted enough to not believe that they would ever be involved. And then he sees like another name, and then it's like I don't know what the name is, but
he assumes that's the person.
Yeah.
And then I forgot exactly when the second revival happened, to be honest with you.
I think it randomly goes off, if I remember right.
Was it because didn't he meet Irie under the bridge like before the last time?
That's
like
yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I'm probably just messing up the timeline here, but I think, because I know like later on they meet under the bridge, but I think they did one time before, and I think it was right after her house caught fire.
Oh yeah, and that's when she talks about like who they suspect like set the house on fire.
Yeah, and then I think right after that it triggers going back in to Revival. Sorry, it's very faint memories at this point.
And it's also like a lot of the stuff happens quick too, and then I always have to remember that like a lot of it does happen really fast.
Yeah, and of course with this type of show, the details are super important. Every little thing that kind of happens is really chronologically, stamped there for a reason, because it affects, the time and space of the world they're presenting. Yeah. So,
butterfly effect, essentially.
Yes.
That's definitely where that ties in. Is like kind of shows that like small effects can have their turn in the future.
So he goes back.
That's where he goes to quote the Gen Z kids. This is where he goes sicko mode.
Good God.
Yeah, this is it's more like a Beautiful Mind type shit. He's like, oh, they think fucking like Yuki did it. They think he's a little kitty toucher. I'm gonna bash their fucking window so he's got an alibi.
Oh yeah, he goes into super like I'm gonna cover
Yeah, dude,
every
it's like
single base I
everything.
can to make sure everyone who I know is clear is in the clear. So he gave Yuki an alibi because going back, he's the older kid that hangs out with the younger kids and does like the, kites and whatever. Kind of creepy, but doesn't mean he's a bad guy, even though I'd be very suspicious still. But yeah, he makes sure he's good. He's still walking KO like home and to school, really getting involved with his friends, kind of making her a little more out of her introverted ways,
Yeah.
kind of showing her that life can be better. And must say, Satoru's mom is fucking clutch.
Yeah,
and fucking dealing with shit. I mean, she's not no slouch. She knows what the fuck's going on, and she totally fucking supports Satoru.
That's also like there's also like one random part too where like he tries to like kill Kaio's mom. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna push this bitch down the stairs," because he's basically convinced that it's her because of the trash bag situation.
And then Kenya was there with him, because also we did not mention that him and Kenya spoke, and Kenya was like, "Hey,
woke."
Yeah, he's like, I kind of know what's going on. Just like I believe you. Like, let me help you out as much as possible.
Yeah, he's like, it's out of character. Like, there's something important going on, and then he explains it to him.
Yeah, and then Kenya's pretty much like his right hand man from that point forward. And Kenya's the one who stops him from fucking pushing that bitch down the stairs. He was like, "Yo, don't do it. Like, just keep lurking." Essentially,
yeah.
Totally forgot about that.
That also like that forces him to like rethink things. So he ends up actually like they call it abducting her, but he like with consent.
Yeah, they make sure she doesn't go home. Essentially,
yeah, so like literally, like we're gonna avoid your mom. Fuck your mom. You're gonna go live in our secret base, which is it's just an old bus they use for storage.
And she's cool with it, so she goes along with it. And the weird scene happens where Satoru like visits like early in the morning or in the middle of the night to make sure she's okay, and he's like, "I'll knock twice so you know it's me."
Yeah.
Random fucking guy just goes in the bus and like kicks the box.
Fucking kicks the fucking shit out of that box.
And then his backpack drops, right?
Yeah, he like drops off his stuff because it's essentially like it's like they like shadow that it's clearly the murderer or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like he drops off his shit and then like is like frustrated, so he kicks the fuck out of the box. And she's just like, "Oh god, like what's going on?" And then I'm pretty sure they come back and then they like
one important detail also is like, you don't realize this. He only tells one person that's not in the friend group where the hideout is.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, so it's like, it gets to that weird point. So where like you're kind of thinking, but you also like don't really know at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they of course take a look at like the backpack and they're like, there's some fucked up shit in here. There's like a mask, there's some rope, there's some leather gloves.
This a murderer, huh?
Mm-hmm. Like this is clearly the murderer. Like I don't think it's her mom, dog. Yeah, type thing. This is the only way I can like really think I can do it. And then it's like I think it's also like they see like some of the tools that were used to like frame Yuki as well.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I think it pretty much gets
sorry,
to that point.
I'm eating an egg roll right now.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to like also use my brain. I was like, remember.
The straight up disrespect.
Sorry, dude. Man's hungry.
And so they're like, we have to get out of the bus. Clearly, the bus is not safe like we thought, And then that's where she gets to go to his house and see like what a normal family looks like, essentially.
Yep.
And that's where Satoru kind of gets his like, my mom's fucking tight. She really cares about everything.
And at some point, in this also, the break happens, the spring break. And, they're able to call Child Protective Services on Kenya's mom. And, Satoru's there. Or I'm sorry, he's not there. Like, they're not there while Satoru's there. So he walks her home from school one day or from hanging out, and her mom is waiting for her, and she gets super physical with Kenya, and then she's about to actually hit fucking Satoru, and then Satoru's mom was like lurking and following the whole time,
Like,
and she's like,
not
"Bitch,
today."
she's like, "Bitch, you thought."
Yeah, like not today, bruh.
Grabs the bitch's arm and is like, "Nah, this ain't happening." And then, little do you know, here comes Child Protective Services pulling up. Skirt! What up, bitch? Let's have a talk.
Also, like,
And then,
I'm trying to
You
like,
got some
remember, too.
splaining to do.
yeah.
Because there's also like I said, so one of the also big players that is in this is also Yashiro Sensei, who's
Mhm.
essentially like the father figure to Satoru as well.
Yep, so he's with them while they pull up.
Yeah,
I pull up.
I pulled up. Yeah, let's go.
And so a small victory well, not small victory. He thought it was like the main victory. Was that, she gets taken away from her abusive family.
Yeah,
And
because
is at custody.
grandma also shows up, does that little like speech of like, you must have had a fucking tough time raising her alone because she was like in an abusive relationship and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and then she like left that and had no money type thing, and she's like, well, I should have gave you like a place to go type shit. You know how it is. And yeah, so she goes to live with her grandma. They're like, well, you know that she's gonna be gone, and he has to like accept that. Well, at least he saved her life.
And he watches the car go off in the distance and they just disappear.
Yep.
And it's a little sad, but
Yeah, it was a little sad, but it's like he did it.
That was
Like our
pretty
boy
sad,
did
yeah.
it. You know.
yeah, he was happy he did it.
Mhm.
And then he's like, okay, this isn't over. I need to stop the other two murders from happening now.
Yeah. And then you get introduced to super fucking weird part where remember when they're driving in the car with a teacher.
Oh my god,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Super fucking weird part where they're like, you're like, okay, he's like driving and I think his mom's in the back seat and they're both in the front, and
Mhm.
he's like, oh,
Disrespectful to the mom.
he's like, oh, there's a wrapper sticking out of your glove box. So he goes and pulls from the glove box, and this shit is fucking filled with lollipops.
Yeah, like to the brim.
And he's like,
Oh man, I thought it was
bruh?
gonna be like Drake or someone.
Yeah. With his new
Like all
album.
those rappers in that fucking that glove compartment.
I like how you have
Anyways,
to, like,
bad
keep
joke.
going with it.
Fucking set aside.
It's like keep going with it, like like the rappers, like the ones the kids like.
Yeah. I mean, little Yachty's in there
Is that Young
somewhere.
Thug?
Anyways, Sensei's like, I keep these here because it's been it's helped me quit smoking.
Yeah, which is like, all right, makes a little bit of sense.
Which I've heard before from previous smokers.
Yeah, that is like a
also,
true
though.
thing and shit like
Yeah,
that.
that's like an actual thing.
Mhm.
Smokers?
Oh, sick.
You must be super cool.
Couldn't be me.
Heathens.
Yeah. So that's a like weird point, but you're like, all right, that makes sense. I've heard that before too. Like
Yeah,
Sean
that's
said.
actually
I've heard that as
actually
well.
like a real
Yeah.
thing.
Like, it's a good
It's
like
not-
replacement.
I bought it when they gave that because I feel like they were trying to make you think, okay, well, this show is about abducting kids, and he has a fucking glove compartment full of candy.
It was almost like
You're not going to make it that obvious.
Yeah, it was like almost too obvious at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of like the most cliche thing for like a kidnapper. You know what I mean? Like, they always make that joke about the fucking van with candy and shit like that.
Yeah, and so that and then I think that kind of like it moves on to like he's like, all right, well now I gotta like stop the other two because I fucking won the first one,
Yeah, and
So he's
the second one was a girl from a different school, and the third one was
Hiromi, which is his little
Hiromi,
girl-looking friend.
Even though it's a guy.
Yeah, and so he's like, well, like he's pretty easy, and he's like, I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna approach this girl, which I think her name's like Aya.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah, Nakanishi.
Yeah, and of course, like then of course you get like that whole thing with like Yashiro and everything like that, and they go back to the bus and they find out like that everything's gone, and so they're like, this motherfucker's like on our tail basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's just pretty much like trying to get to know her and stuff like that. Like, how do we approach her? And then Kenya like starts to help, and then I think they like they like invite her to their hideout, like their new one, like their other one.
Well, yeah, because they tried approaching her at first, and she was like, you guys are so immature and stupid.
Yeah, like
and
I
then
read fucking Shakespeare.
Yeah, and I forgot the
Which I think
kid's
is a real
name,
one.
and I forgot the kid's name in the group, but he had the courage to go up and ask her, like, then come hang out at our hideout if you don't know what it's all about, or like,
I think that's Osamu.
Yeah, and then they go to the hideout the next day thinking she's not going to show up, and little behold, she shows up because she has a crush on him.
She pulled up.
She pulled up.
She pulled up, apparently.
She did.
Yeah, she definitely did. And from that point on, they can keep tabs on her because she's frequently around, which is good. So they're keeping tabs on the other two.
Yeah, and Hiromi's already a part of the group, so I mean, and I'm pretty sure at this point in the story, he's kind of let everyone know. Maybe not everyone, but he's let a couple other people, Hiromi being one of them, into
Hiromi's
what he's trying to do.
Yeah, he's like, kind of like Kenya. I was like, oh, you're up to something. You're acting different.
Yeah, and but they're fully supportive. So
yeah, so I think, and then the next part is like the ice hockey game, right? Where it's like,
well, it was before that.
Actually, I don't think his name was Osamu. I think it was Kazu.
Is it Kazu?
It was Kazu.
I think it was Kazu.
Anyways, Satoru, before the hockey game, Satoru's like, yo, even if I keep tabs on these two people, like, he could easily just go for another, like, victim.
Yeah, like why would that stop me? He could just like pick another one.
So I forgot the girl's name that he is.
We kind of.
It's the so there was also a part that we kind of like glossed over.
We completely skipped.
It wasn't. Well, it's not like super. It's not super important. But so,
I mean, it kind of is.
It's like it's like I guess it kind of is. So it's like when it's the first part where Satoru basically stands up for Kaio because there's a part with like the money that they take for lunches, like the school lunch, and so he sticks up for her, and they basically find out that this fucking bitch in the class is fucking setting her up, and like, oh, this bitch took it because she's like poor, and she's in charge of the money, so she's probably poor and she needs the money, and then he's like, well, fuck you, bitch, like, what do you know? And then everyone like makes fun of her, and she basically gets like ostracized, and she's like the replacement kid that gets bullied. I know that's fucked up to say, but it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember that happening when I was 10 years old. But,
yeah, and that kind of becomes like the seed for later of like he's like using her as bait in a way.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a swapping places also, because you notice like Misato was just like how Kaio was in the beginning, just kind of to herself, like walking alone, not talking to anyone.
Yeah, like like what you're saying, like the victim for that crime.
Yeah.
And so basically, Satoru is like, well, it's going to be her, like, so I kind of have to pay attention to her as well. And then, so I think that ties into that, and then it's the ice hockey game, right?
Yeah, because like, he noticed
they're like, oh, she's not going to go. And then I think that the sensei also. Here's your second red flag. He's like taking a bunch of children to this ice hockey game.
Yeah,
so you're still at that point where like it still looks a little too obvious, that it's going to be him.
Yeah, so Satoru's at the ice hockey game, and he clearly sees like some of his peers there, including Sensei and some other kids from his class. Mm-hmm. And then he sees the girl like way across the way, like other side of the stadium type shit.
Yeah.
And he notices that she walks off by herself, like right before the game starts. So he's like, oh fuck, it's showtime. Runs off after her, and he thinks that she's going to the restroom. And the sensei actually walks in from going outside, and he's like, Satoru's like, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I just had a sucker break because, he doesn't smoke cigarettes anymore.
You know how it is.
You can't just eat a fucking sucker in the middle of a goddamn...
Gotta get a sucker break.
Yeah. And he was like, oh, I'm waiting on this girl, but I think she's in the restroom. And the teacher's like, no, she went that way. And points to the outside area that he just walked from. So they both walk outside and they see a truck driving away. So Satoru's like, oh fuck. He's like, Sensei, you've got to help me. We've got to follow that truck.
Mhm.
And
And you also have
gets
to
him
remember that it's Yuki's family's truck as well.
Yes,
So it's like,
Yuki's
oh
family's.
fuck, he's gonna fucking frame him.
Yeah, that's what it was. So the teacher drives him, and they're following the truck for a while. And in the car ride is when the mystery unfolds. Yep. If you didn't figure it out already,
because here comes them demon eyes again.
Yeah. So the teacher, Satoru, actually starts explaining to the teacher why he's like acting out so much about like this child, and he tells all to the teacher, like essentially like he doesn't explain that he could see in the future, or that he can revisit the past, but he's saying like, I'm protecting these girls, because of the murder, and me and my friends call it playing detective. And then the teacher pretty much unveils that he is the fucking murderer.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Who would have thunk it?
No way. Yeah, and he's like,
what?
He's like, yeah, and then he of course does his moment where he's like, yeah, you're gonna keep stopping me. He's like, I realize that you were there every fucking step.
So you're telling me,
like, I don't understand why you're there at every step. And he's like, then it got me thinking, you must fucking know something.
So you're telling me you wanted to kill this one girl, and you helped me fucking get her out of town. You fucking patient, psycho, maniacal sack of shit. What the fuck?
Yeah. It's also, I think that also comes, like, that story, if I remember right, because, like, he ends up being like, alright, your seatbelt doesn't undo, by the way. And then he decides to put him in a freezing lake, because he's like, I'm gonna go start a new life and get away from this, but I'm gonna make sure I kill you, because you done piss me off, basically.
He's pretty much saying he needs to go to a new town because he kind of ruined it for
and he like
him in this town.
Yeah, and for like like the future, he's like, that's what we're you basically stopped it. So he was like, good job, but also you're gonna die.
You're gonna die.
And fucking, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to remember like when the story comes in, but he's like, I think it's like at the end where he's like, Yashiro, I know your future. Or something like that.
Oh yeah,
because
like he suspects his power.
Yeah,
he's like, "How do you know like every move I was gonna make?"
Yeah,
and he's then, like, "I don't remember what he says, but it was something ominous." And then
he's like, "I know your future," and he's like, what the fuck, basically. And he's like, "All right, I'm out of here." And then fucking, I think that's when you also get like, it's kind of like, I would say it's an important little like story about it. So there's like it's called the Spider's Thread, if I remember right.
Yeah, the Spider's Thread.
It's essentially like you get like, I think it was like someone in hell that like they got offered a thread and they like knocked all these people down like along the way and stuff like that, and then that it like essentially gets cut like before he reaches the top. And so he talks about like that he can see the thread on like certain people, and he saw that on Satoru and shit like that.
That shit cray.
Yeah, which is like, it was a cool tie-in.
It was cool. It's kind of weird how they threw it in there last second.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, okay.
I always like that story because, like I said, I've heard it before. So
it's a good story. No, I agree with that. I just thought it was kind of, it's just weird to throw it in like right then and there. It almost seemed like convenience. Yeah. But it's a written story. What do you expect?
Yeah, and then
anyways,
it goes to that point to where it fast forwards. I think it's like 15 years in the future, and so he's been in a coma the entire time, and then of course like his essentially like he gets to the point where he's like recovering because they talk about how like hard his mother worked like the entire time to like keep his body from like deteriorating
and being bedridden.
Yeah, like getting atrophied essentially. And then he's like, he doesn't have his memories and everything like that, and then he's basically like rehabbing, and then he's meeting all of his friends again.
So I know Kenya becomes a lawyer, and
I think he's going to become a doctor.
Yeah, Hiromi's in the process of becoming a doctor,
and then of course then you get Kaio who pops in,
Yep.
Like, by the way,
she had a baby.
She's
I got a baby.
married to Hiromi.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I also am married to that guy.
I got kind of upset with that.
I did too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I wanted her to end up with Satoru.
Definitely happened.
What?
And
you can't always win your ship, you know?
Yeah, you can't. But I mean, like, I don't know.
It was such a strong character development between the two in the beginning. You know, he kind of saved her, but
it also,
I guess that doesn't warrant like a relationship either.
Yeah, it also does kind of like show like his sacrifice in it of like, hey, you know, like I got put in a coma, and then they also bring up like the fact that Kyle's like, you know, part of us didn't feel right, you know, being happy and living our lives when you were like this. And he's like,
so everyone suffered a bit.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, he's like, all I ever wanted you guys to be was happy, essentially, and, you know, alive, and they're all alive and well.
Yeah. I'm about to cry right now.
Yeah, and then he also, probably like it's not like a super important part, but also like he meets like a leukemia patient as well.
Kumi.
They're kind of like bouncing back off each other of like, oh, you're the reason like I'm working so hard is like to impress you.
Yeah, bonding essentially.
And stuff like that. You know, just like passing time because he's stuck in the hospital, so he's pretty much passing the time. Type shit.
And also, guess who pops up again?
The old Yashiro, isn't he?
Good old Yashiro.
He's got a new name.
Yep, he sure
does. Remember that name because it's one of the names that popped up with the arson. From Irie's house.
What a coinky dink.
And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna become a politician as someone who acts like him would do.
Yep, and then, you know, poor Satoru doesn't have all of his memories back yet, or so you think.
Yeah, so you think.
Or so you think.
And he's essentially gonna like frame him for like being a pervert, I think.
Yeah, he leaves the cell phone in forgot her name's room. Well, hospital room.
Yeah.
Because he's been visiting and checking in on the two of them and like pretending like, ooh, I'm such a swell guy. But he's just up to his good old dastardly deeds.
Yeah, old Dick Dastardly back at it.
Back at it. And, you know.
Dirty deeds done dirt cheap. I had to throw that cringe for the little tidbit in there. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you don't think that Satoru has his memories back, but he does, and he ends up telling
Kenya.
Yeah, it's Kenya that, like, hey, I remember, and this is what we're going to fucking do, essentially. Comes up with a master plan, and then him and good old Sensei have a final showdown.
Yep, out the old rooftop.
It's a final
you know how it is.
showdown.
Straight up banana.
This is also like
straight up banana fish style.
He also like gets everyone involved too. Like he gets like all his friends involved as well.
All his friends, his mom.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And then so they go up to the old rooftop as it is, and then you get a little thing as well, because like part of the thing that the sensei would do a lot is to like tap his fingers.
Yeah, he was doing it on the steering wheel every time he drove.
Yeah, and so he does that on the wheelchair, and he's like, that's when you got your memories back. And he's like, actually, bitch, I got them back a long time ago.
Bitch, you thought.
Yeah, bitch, you thought. And he's like, I know what you're going to do. You're going to basically make it look like I'm guilty, and you're going to make me look like I killed myself because of that girl. And then Yashiro Sensei is like, bitch, you're on the phone with Kenya, trying to get me to admit to the crime. And he's like, it don't matter.
Yeah.
I put poison in her IV drip.
Yeah, and then also they got this weird conversation going where Satoru's like, you can't live without me, essentially.
Yeah, like, I am. You haven't killed in that entire time frame. And
he's like, I'm the reason you're living.
At any point. Yeah.
I'm the reason you're still going on. And he even proves it, and he goes to fucking fling himself off of the building, and he grabs Satoru and stops him. And then they have a final little showdown, and Satoru releases himself. And he falls down, and then the teacher's like, oh shit, it's over. Yeah. You know, I'm going to kill myself too. And before he falls down, he realizes that there's a giant inflatable thing down there that caught him.
Yeah, he was like, yo, get fucked.
and everybody was looking up at him and heard the whole conversation. And
he gets arrested for attempted murder.
Yep. So justice was served.
Yep. And then flash forward.
That was a hell of a price to pay for that justice, though.
Damn straight, dude.
It was, yeah. 15-year coma. Fuck, man.
I don't know, but then we get rewarded. We get a little treat, I would say. Unfortunately, like I think he's like a couple years older than he was when like the series was first started. So he's like 31 or something like that.
Yeah, and he's also and it shows that he's a like successful manga artist at this point,
because like now he's lived a life that's worth like telling, like a story that's worth telling.
He's opened up his heart. He's been true to himself. So he has a following, and it shows that he's working there and he's publishing a manga and he's happy.
There's something missing,
It's one thing missing.
Maybe Satoru deserves a little bit of love in his life.
Maybe. So he walks back
he didn't
under
get Kaio.
So he walks back under the bridge where him and Kaio always used to meet up. And what do you know? What do you know? Oh, Irie, I'm sorry. Yeah. What do you know? A little blue butterfly pops up.
And he's like, what?
And look who comes running up. Good old Irie.
Talking about the rain. And then guess who's of age now, baby?
Yeah.
She's also a photographer, and I think he also like sees his manager like all pissy that he's having to make deliveries.
Yeah, he does. He does. That was part of it.
And he's like, yeah, bitch.
And then it shuts off from there. So it was overall a happy ending.
Yeah, it's like you're kind of like it's implied that like he's gonna end up with Irie because I think he like tears up too.
He does. He gets very emotional, but he doesn't get to say anything before it cuts off.
Yeah,
but it leaves
choice.
It does. It leaves it to the imagination, but it's very implied as to what's going to happen.
And I guess in hindsight of the story, like I think maybe granted, 15 years in a coma sucks, but compared to where he is on this alternate timeline than to where he was,
well, it's also you saved 3 lives, you put away a murderer.
And he's more successful now to begin with,
and you're about to have a fucking girlfriend.
So also, it was also very like implied and hinted at, like before the first revival took place, that he had a crush on Irie and stuff like that. But like she's a high school student, like chill out.
Like, I never even bothered to talk to her.
Yeah, and so like the 15-year coma, like everything that he did completely and fully paid off, because like everything that he was dreading and like the emptiness in his life essentially was fulfilled.
Yeah. Nice.
And
everything erased became unerased.
Nice.
Yeah,
they hit the undo button pretty hard.
Kind of as cheesy as it sounds, it kind of displays like a life lesson, like you get fulfillment from going through your hardships and not just like shoving them in the back of your head and like forgetting about them. It's kind of better to deal with stuff, and like everything will kind of pay off and be kind of worth it in the end. So I actually really like that ending in that sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Irie personally.
Oh, me too. She's of age.
That's like you
great.
Said. So you're like, she's the first person to believe in me.
Yeah,
he could have waited a year and then somehow it wouldn't have been weird, but that's how it is.
Overall, she was just like she was a really good character. You know what I mean? Even though she didn't have much screen time, like she was super supportive and like.
Again, she's also real. Like I felt like I got a real sense from her. Genuine, yeah. Sorry, I'm a Gen Xer, dude.
It happens. We're also millennials, by the way. I just want you to know that.
And it's like none
of
it.
Terminology. But sorry, Sean.
Nothing with her character is like overplayed either. Nothing's like exaggerated or like you know what I mean. Like it all kind of felt natural.
She's also like I think they also do it too as like they also do make her seem like very mature for her age as well.
Yeah.
I think that kind of like ties in later. He's like wow, like this girl understands me more than like anyone else in my life.
Overall, I enjoyed it, man. It was, for being 12 episodes, like it was very jam-packed with like, it was thought-provoking, and I like the mystery side of it as well, and I like the slice of life side of it as well. That
song's a fucking absolute banger.
I skipped it every time, I'm not gonna lie.
Rude. Just rude.
I just straight up don't remember. Sorry. I don't.
Just
I think I enjoyed it, but
Doug,
I can't definitively tell you.
Doug, do you need a revival?
I mean, this was kind of a half-baked revival. I could live with this.
Yeah. That's always like I said. I'm glad that I at least got to like share that with you. Like that you guys gave it a chance.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah,
I finished it in 2 days.
I definitely keep it up there. Where, like I said, it's like I know that some people don't agree with like how the ending is, but I think it's mainly people who really just wanted him to end up with a Kaya.
Well, the thing I liked about it is like the ending of every episode. I was kind of just like, oh, dude, oh shit, dude.
The thing that I always thought was like when I first watched it, I was like, oh, I got it. Like I know who it is. And then as I kept watching it, I'm like, I don't know who it is. And so I got to the point where I'm like, dude, it could be like 3 people.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like I thought it was too obvious that it would be the teacher, but then like once it happened, I was like, I knew it.
Yeah. So it's like I think like everyone pretty much gets that. You're like, it's kind of obvious though, and then like your brain tricks you into thinking like they wouldn't make it that obvious, right?
But they
all
are.
fingers were pointing, and I was like, it can't be.
In the way
it's gotta be.
The way that I say like that like Jess probably saw it too, like how you brought up is that.
Yeah.
So that when I was like, hey, you guys should watch this, I looked at the title card on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, why the fuck is Yashiro on the fucking card winking?
Wow.
And I'm like,
I didn't pay that much attention.
The thing that really set it off for me is like I mentioned while we were talking about it is that like they were the only ones that told him about, their hideout, which was the bus. You know what I mean? He was the only one.
Yeah, and I think if you like miss that, that's when you'll be like, I don't really know who.
Yeah. So I'm proud of myself that I picked up on that. I gave myself
like rewatching it, I was like,
I'll be honest, I didn't.
Yeah, like
I didn't remember that he told him that.
I could overlook everything else, and then one stupid thing happens. I'm like,
because it'll be like I think he was like going to the hideout or something like that. Like, and he was like, yeah, and that was it. It was like so minor.
Well, even when he was talking to him, when he was talking to Yashiro about it, Yashiro even said he's like, only kidnappers like you would think of a spot like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of like, with them. What would you give it rating wise though?
So for me, I watched it in 2 days. I was super into it. I really liked the butterfly effect aspect. I really like how the character development, how they put the story together. I really liked how the characters interacted.
I really like the pacing too. I think the pacing's really good.
Yeah. I mean, they did a whole lot in 12 episodes, but it didn't feel like it was rushed. It was just a smooth story, very well told. I'd give it an 8. Based off of those facts that I remember, I'd give it an 8.
I agree. I'd give it. I was thinking an 8 also. I was thinking like a high 7s, like 8.
I do believe. I think I have it like a 9 if I remember right.
So like the story was great, and everything about it was just. Give me 1 second. Actually, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I keep it at like a 9, and
yeah,
because probably I feel like I'm like it's like a high 8 for me, but like on the website there ain't no 8.5, so I'm just like it's probably like an 8.6 to me. So I'm like fuck it 9.
Yeah, I just round it.
And like 10 are like my absolute fucking like it's like masterpiece type shit.
I haven't seen any 10s yet. Unfortunately,
I got some 10s for you.
I've got. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. I have my favorites.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love them.
Yeah.
But even still,
rate too high on like my favorites, because like I said, like some of my favorite, like even some of my favorite animes are like, even I'll be like, that's a fucking solid 7.
Yeah. Like, and that's
but it's like my favorite.
I'm delving into the manga side of the anime world, and they're just like I'll just spill the beans that I'm reading Berserk now, and I'd give that a solid fucking 9.8, 9.9, damn near a perfect 10. The only reason I won't do that is because I'm not completely caught up with it.
Yeah.
But so far, it's just the fucking best. But the anime for it, though it is good, I'd give the anime like a 7.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, sometimes it's just like
not
hard
as
to
good.
adapt, and that's just how it is sometimes.
And I agree. I think the CGI for the 2016 was a bad call, but you know, that's me personally. And in the original 97, you know, they just left a lot out, which I get for pacing and, you know, for the time. I get it. But, you know, I'm also, you know, after reading it, I don't want to be one of those snobs, but I get it. Okay. Anyways, that's completely off topic.
Like I said, I always usually when I'm into like manga, I always end up reading it like when it doesn't have a solid ending. I'm always like, well, I gotta go buy this now because I have to see how it ends.
Yeah.
Because I always get little 12 episode fucking bangers. I'm like, well, now I gotta figure out how it ends properly.
Well, now I know that, you know, things change, like when you're converting, you know, one to the other. So it's like one of my favorite series is Tokyo Ghoul. And, you know, the first 2 seasons of the anime are fucking phenomenal, in my opinion. But the RE version of it is closer to the manga. And, you know, that they've changed things in the manga. And that's another one I found out the manga's a lot better than the actual series.
Yes.
Though I haven't read it, you know, that's, you know, I want to check that out because the anime is one of my favorites. So I'm thinking it'll only improve my opinion on it. So it's really hard to gauge, but when it's, you know, linear and we're talking about the one subject, it's not too difficult. Like, I mean, if I binge something that hard, especially nowadays when I work and try to live an adult life, you know, that really speaks volumes to what, you know, I really think of it.
Yeah. So I think that's a good little like hopping off point, even though I don't think Sean's back. But yeah, I think
that's okay.
Good series. Glad to share like one of my probably up there favorites, and glad you guys liked it.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And I think I always suggest it too. It's like when you don't really watch like a lot of anime, this is also like one of the series that I suggest to someone who's like getting into it, because it's not really like, I don't know, like the common like problems that people have with anime.
Right. It doesn't hit like a lot of common tropes with anime. It's kind of it does its own thing with it.
I think that's why it's been adapted really like so many times and stuff like that, like live action, you know.
Yeah. So do you want to say what we're going to be watching next?
Yeah, so we're basically, I think we've decided is that instead of doing like the random structure, we ended up going like a different path with it. And so like it is, I think it's quadruple S, and then it's Dynazenon, which is basically like a mecha anime.
Yep. I know nothing about it, but
I only have
that's the whole point of this, and
you basically
I'm excited to watch it.
You were like Japanese Power Rangers, and I'm like, well, you know, even though they did take the footage from Japanese show, but
we're doing it new style.
Yep. And then so I'll never be able to say that other one, but it's called like Rin, daughter of, is that Nemozine?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Nimozine, and then or whatever. And then Sean suggested a very good one that we've all been putting off, which is Steins Gate. And so we're saving that for the end. That way we can like put the whole 2 weeks into it.
Yeah, because that's a 24 episode, you know, 2 week fucking banger. Sorry, don't know why I decided to slow down speech like I was having a stroke.
we're all stroking out. That's how it is. But, yeah, so hopefully, like I said, we'll keep our schedule more. Be able to like watch a week and then record like one day of the week that we're watching the other series while we do that.
Yeah, and, but bear with us. We do live lives. We have our lives. You know, this isn't a full-time gig for us. We kind of just do this for fun, mainly, actually. Just so we can watch new stuff and, you know, have a discussion about it. You're lucky we get to decide to share it with you. So, take that.
Yeah. And we appreciate, if you're listening, we appreciate you for listening.
Yeah, even though I just didn't sound like we were, but we really do.
And we do like we enjoy this, so that's how it is.